In this video you'll learn how to create a completely responsive slider or a slideshow in CSS only. This is a complete beginner-friendly guide, so even though you are not really an expert in HTML and CSS, you'll be able to make through this whole tutorial and have a slider in your project, in your website. Just follow along. The pretty first step should be creating a folder, and I'm going to create here a folder called Slider CSS Only. Inside this folder, let's try to create a nice structure. And a nice one would be creating here an HTML file, index. Let's remove this text and put HTML. If you can see there's extension here, come to view, and this file name extension, just mark it up and you'll be able to see it. Now we are going to create another two folders because we are going to really work with a lot of files, images, you know. So CSS for the CSS files and EMG or images. It depends, it's on you. IMG looks better because it's faster, you see. Now in the CSS, just right click, new, and let's create here the CSS file already. So style.css, because the CSS will apply the styles. Now in this image here, we need to fill it up. Our slider is going to work with 4 different images. If you really want to do with less or more images, stick to the end, because in the end I will try to help you to make some adaptations and make it work even for you that want a lot or even less images. But if you are lazy just like me, well, just put 4, it doesn't really matter, right? Let's try to look for some images, so images. Of course, I've already chosen mine. You just come here to the images and click on one, right click and save the image. It's up to you, you can use any image you want. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to paste these 4 images into my image folder. Now that we are almost ready, we're going to start writing code. But before that, you need to understand where are you going to write it. You can do it in Notepad, Notepad++, Visual Studio Code, Vim, there's a lot of options. And the one I'm going to choose is the Visual Studio Code. So I've dragged it up, and now we have here our slide CSS only. And for the index.html, which is the main file where you are going to write the body, we need to write the boilerplate. And if you don't know, you can simply write up boilerplate HTML and you can copy and paste it to your website, you know, just come here and copy this. And then you can come here and paste it. Of course, this way it's good. But if you have Visual Studio Code or any other text editor, you can simply exclamation mark here and press enter. In Visual Studio Code it's like this, but it is not always like this in other text editors. So, 2 things that you need to keep in mind. This lang here, the language, this will help the browser understand in which language you have your website. So imagine English and someone French goes there, the translator will try to put your English into French. Now the documents, we can put something like slider image or slider page or main page, even home page. This is the little text that will appear up there on the tab. I will show you right now. And now we are going to try to put it on the web already. So right click, open with live server. I'm doing this way instead of clicking down there because this way I know what file I'm opening. In this case we already have here home page. And now we are going to start to create our structure in HTML. We are going to have the header, which is pretty different from the head. The head is for the structure of an HTML code. The header is for the structure of your website. It's a semantic tag, a semantic element which will help the browser understand that this is a header of a website. And sliders usually come on the top. Now we are going to put something like a div, which is going to have a ID of slider. If you want, you can change this div for section or article, then figure, which is another semantic tag. This only specifies that here are going to be a couple images, or at least 1, and now we are going to put here 5 images. And yes, I know, I told that the slider is going to have 4 images, but the 5th one, it's the magic one. You will understand it later. Well, now, remember those images. They are right here, you know, you can see them in your Visual Studio Code if you are using it. And let's come here and put city.jpg. Although this is the right name, but it's not pretty much the right path, and the source needs to be the path. So if we come here, right, close this, and we open, we have the index close to the image, so we need to specify the image. Then in Visual Studio Code it already is helping us. If you put here slash, you can click in the name of the file that you want to select. Now you're going to do the same thing for the rest of them, and road. Now we are going to put the walking, and lastly we are going to put the yummy. And now the fifth one is going to be the first one, the exact same first one, because, well, you'll understand it later. Now we don't really need to put an alternative text. If you want to, go ahead. It's really a nice practice, because imagine here's a city, right? So a city at night. Well, it is only in the case that it doesn't work or for accessibility purposes, and I don't really care about it in this video. Let's just keep going. Now we need to link our CSS, right? Because the CSS is going to apply the styles for the images, and I want this CSS to be applied. Okay, of course, you could simply put here the style from here in the head or in the body. You can put it wherever you want and style it that way. However, since you might want to do this in a bigger project, I'm going to teach you how to create it in an external file. It's pretty much the same thing, but this way it's more organized, okay? Let's go. Link. In Visual Studio Code, you can write link, and there are a lot of things that you can link. The most used ones are the CSS for the styles, or the favicon for the little icon that appears next to the document, next to this title here. So, link to .css. Note that the link should have the rel, which is what it is, style sheet, and the href, such as an anchor, and the href in this case is the style.css. But this is not quite right, you see? If we come here and we go to index.html, it's next to the folder, but it's next. It's also brother of the CSS, so we need to reach the brother first. So CSS is the name of the folder. Now slash, and now we go to the children of the CSS, and there we go. Now the CSS must be linked. Come here, we already have all the images, and yes, you can note that all the images have different sizes, but we'll leave at that for the moment. What you're going to do now is opening the CSS, and we are going to reset everything up. If I come here to the browser, you can see that the images don't really touch the borders, right? But if I come here and put this little star and open the curly brackets, which is the global selector, it will select everything, okay? You can put the padding, okay, I've put a little bit more this than supposed, 0, and margin as 0. This will reset all the spaces, and now it is actually touching the walls, as I like to call it. The first selector is going to consist in this header. Another thing that you are going to do is create a sort of container, okay? So the images don't get to touch the walls, okay? So we are going to put here the width of around this way, okay? 1024 pixels. The size is up to you, and I'm going to also apply the margin to 0 auto, okay? This way it is going to make it more automatic, more centered, more responsive. Let's check it out. You can see that it's pretty much centered, okay? The right here, it goes a little bit overboard in this place, okay? But if you come here and check it out with the responsive tool, it will always try to get more centered. Okay, this is pretty bad at the moment, but it will really get better. Now, do you remember this div here, the slider? Well, let's call it up. We are going to create a selector for the slider. And as you can see, I've put here an hashtag, which with IDs, when you want to select IDs, just put the hashtag to call it up. If you are using classes, just put a dot. And the only thing that you are going to apply is the overflow. We could put X or Y for the directions, but we want both them to be hidden, to disappear. Imagine that our image does not fit. Well, instead of simply trying to get bigger or trying to have here this scroll, it will simply be cut. It will keep a more responsive look, in a sense. Now we are going to call a figure. But since you can have multiple figures in your whole document, you can do one thing from the two. You can apply a class of slider images, something like this, or you can do like me, just a lazy person. Come here, slider, and put figure. This way, you are going to select every figure tag, in this case, this is the only one, that's inside something with the ID of slider. So let's come here, and we are going to apply the position of relative, not to confuse with the absolute, because absolute is related directly with the whole screen. Relative, always check for the parent. Now we're going to apply the width of 500%. Why 500%? No, this is not just a random magic number. Let's count it up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 image tags. And we need 100 for each single one, because we are going to apply these with some animations. You'll understand it later. Now we also put the margin. It's not the max resolution, trust me, it's the margin to 0. Of course, we have already resetted it up here, but we need to make it 0 again here, so this way it will get centered even in small screens, in smaller devices. Then we'll apply the left to 0, because we are going to use this left to make it slide. And now we are going to also specify this image here. So you can either way create a class for that. Yes, you can simply create here a class of slider image without space. Here you should have slider figure, something like that. Okay, now that I think of it. But we are simply going to come here, slider, figure, image, here. Because this way we are selecting every image that's in both inside the figure, that's inside the slider. Well, it's pretty much like a parent-child relation. Now we are going to apply a width of 20%. Yes, I know, here we are applying it of 500 and here we are going to apply it of 20. It's like, you see, 5 images equals to 20% each. Times 5, that's equals to the 100%, you understand? That's the math that we are using here. Every image is going to only occupy 20%, 1/5 of the whole image, okay, of the whole slider. And then we are going to also apply the float to left, so the image will always try to float to the left. Okay, this way, if I remove the float, it's still going to have 2, but with the float on, it's remove everything up. And in this case, are going to be overlapped, but as you can see here, the images don't have the same sizes, neither the height or the width. But by sticking to the end of the video, you are going to learn how I keep my images responsive, keeping the same aspect ratio and the same sizes with just 2 lines of code. Now we are going to create something called keyframes. Put here at the rate and put keyframes. Keyframes in the plural because they are more than 1. And now, after it, you also need to select a name. And a good name for it would be slider or sliding, slideshow. It's really pretty much up to you. Then we need to also set up each individual keyframe and what will happen in each individual keyframe. So the first one is going to be 0%. Okay, let me put here the percentage. And in here, we are going to put the left of 0. It is not going to move. You will want to start the slider from the beginning, of course. Then, we are going to also put here the 20% and put the left as a 0. And what will happen is, between the 0 and the 20%, it will stay this first image. But now, from the 20 to the 25%, it is going to change the image that's already showing. So, left. And you are going to make it to the other side. So we need, instead of putting 100%, okay, we need to put minus 100%. Because if you have all images stacked up, you want the image to go to the left, you see, between 0 to 20. So 20% of time is going to be for each individual image. 5% is going to be for the transition, because if we come here and make something like, it is not right, but 22, 23 and 24%, it would go something like minus 20, minus 40, minus 60, minus 80, everything here percentages. This is pretty much how it would go. But we can really omit these little steps. And of course, between the 21 and the 22, you also have the 21.5, which would be 30%. Well, it just goes like that. You just need to keep in mind that 20% stays still in the same image, and the next 5% is going to change for the next image. So let's just come here and put 25 to 45%. We are going to put here the left, same, minus 100%. Then, what's happening? At the 50, it's going to change for the left, minus 200%, because it goes from 200 to 200. And you can even put something like second slide. Now, the 70%, it's just the same thing, okay? 70%. And you are going to keep the left at the same thing, 200%. Now, this is going to be the same thing up to the end, but I really want to teach you guys now how we use these keyframes. Firstly, where? You need to use it inside the slider figure, this figure here, which has the 500 width, because if it's on 500 width, it's going to the 400 when it changes to 25. This is going to be where we are going to do the animation. And if you don't know what animations are in CSS, I've made a video about it. If you want, just click on the cards and you'll be able to understand how every little thing works. And in this case, we could use animation, timing function, duration, name, delay, all of these little styles, properties, or we can simply put animation shorthand. That's what I'm going to use because it's faster and I don't really want to explain it all in this small video. So, Slideshow, which is the name of the keyframes. Without specifying a name of any keyframe at all, this is not going to work. Now we are going to put the duration. We can put 20 seconds. You can also put milliseconds, but this way you would put something like that. You can put 20 seconds, 30 seconds, up to you. You can put how much time you want. But keep in mind that this time, it's not for each image. It's for the whole animation. So it's going to be divided for the 4 images. Now we are going to put the iteration count, which is going to be infinite, so it is not ever but ever going to happen. If you didn't put infinite, it would only go one time, of course, slide through every image, and it would go to the first image and stop. It would not go any more time. And well, this is the way I'm going to use animation in this slider here. You could change it a little bit, there are multiple conditions that you can apply, and even make it better, but this is the fastest and easiest way of doing a responsive slider. Now, if you go to the browser, we can already check how everything is working. So, here's the first image, centered and all, but if you wait a little bit, this is going to make the animation of transition to the next image, you see? Now it bugs and goes to the beginning because we don't have all the keyframes yet. But, as you could see, it's really working already. It's not something like instant. Okay? With this left property here, we could actually make it slide. Imagine that you are reading a book. You can slide the page of the book and make that little animation. In this way, you are going to have a really way more professional slider in your project. So let's keep it up. So if the 50 and 70 it's minus 200, we are going to put the 75 for left minus 300. Here this way, okay, it bugged and went to the beginning really fast because of this, because we went to the positive, but you need to put minus. I forgot the minus. Now 75, 95, which is still going to have the same thing, and lastly 100%, which will have the left of minus 400%. And this is it, guys. With this you have your slider already working. Let's get to the first image. So we slide to the second, okay? The second is the road, as you remember. Then it's the person looking at the sky and walking because he's very fit. Now the yummy, the hamburgers, okay? And now the first again, because when it changes for the minus 400 here, it goes to the first image. And if we hadn't the fifth image here as the first one, we would change instantly from this one to something and it would bug. It would simply bug a lot. So always make sure to put the last one as the first one. Now, as you could see, the first image, it's not the same height as the other ones, of course, and it's pretty obvious. If you are a pro designer, of course, you can make your images fit and make cool and the same high and low, but if you don't really care about the images, if you just want to make it up straight and nice, well, there's a little trick in CSS to do that. If you come here to the slider figure image, because you are changing the image, right? You can put here the height. You can set the height for every single one. And you can think about what height do I want. You can do it in percentage, in M, in rem, in pixels, right? In pixels. You can also do it with viewport of view height or view width. I'm going to put something like 50 view heights. So 50 of these units of the height of the screen. So if you come here, it's a little bit strange, distorted the image, but there we go, it's all the same. Now another thing that you might want to have, it's because imagine that you have a really strange image and your image is going to be really fat or really thin. Something that maintains the aspect ratio in CSS, that's pretty nice, it's the object fit. And I don't know if it only works with images, but what it does is making the image always fit the content. So if we inspect this and we make it smaller, it will always keep everything at the same size, you see? And it will not ever but ever break anything up. Okay? And now since you already have everything with the same height, everything pretty nice, there's a last thing that you can do, which is changing this width for whatever you want, right? You can put it to 1200 if you think that it was a little bit strange and now you like it the most. If you really want to have the image more centered and all, okay, you will need to work a little bit with media queries, max width or min width of 500 pixels, something like this. And if you want a video about these media queries, left in the comments asking for me to do it. And we also have the number of images. I didn't forget about it. Okay, so let's just remove this yummy one, yeah, and let's just change this a little bit. So the percentages I made this case for having 20% for each one, because if you divide 500, so we put 400 just for the 4 images that we have now, 400, if we divide 100% for 3 instead of 4, we can have up to 30 probably. Well, let's put it 25 here, now 30. Now here we are going to put 55 probably. Okay, let's check. Yes, 55. Now we are going to put here the 60, then 85, 90. Let's check how the numbers get. 0, 100, 200, and then we would get the 300 here, because we cannot have the minus 400 as an example. And so we could put something like 30, maybe, then 35, then 60 here, 65, now 95, 100%. I believe this math is mathing. Okay, this way it is not really going to work. Let's put it 500 again. Okay, there we go. Now let's wait a little bit. There we go. We change to the second one. We change the third one. Fourth one. And there we go. We already got everything working properly, you know. If you want to 3, you can just copy these, the width stay at 500, and for 3 it would be 0, 0, 100, 100, 200, 200, and 300. The percentages are 0, 30, 35, 60, 65, 95, 100%. Now if you want to go a little bit faster, you can simply change this 20 for 15, since we have less images, okay? And it will slide in faster periods, okay? Another thing that you can do is increasing the number, but I've already explained the math, so you need to make everything covered for every part. Imagine that you want to have more. You might need to change this width here, or just keep it up and simply slide. This is a test that you will need to have, or other way just keep the 4 or the 3 that we just made here. I'm Diogo Veigas, and with this you've learned how to create a responsive slider with 3 or 4 images in CSS only. Hope you guys enjoyed and see you soon.